Well, we are so excited because today we are talking to the fabulous Ryan Kelly, who plays the one and only, the very splendid Jazzer McCreary. Ryan, welcome to All About the Archers.
Hello, hello.
It's very good to talk to you. Thank you.
Yes, we're delighted to have you on, Ryan. Now, first things first, I feel I should know this, but I don't, to my shame. Why is your character called Jazzer when, in fact, his real name is Jack?
Well, anybody in Scotland who is called Jack generally gets called Jazzer.
Oh.
It's just one of these Glaswegian things. It's like anybody that's called Huey is generally called Shug. You know, it's just one of these little Glasgowisms that happen.
Okay.
Thomas would be Tam. You know, it's just
Right.
that's a lot of Scottish people are sort of Tam instead of Tom.
Right.
But it's just a little Glasgowism. That's really all it is.
And, of course, you are actually from Glasgow yourself, aren't you?
Originally, yeah, but I haven't lived there since I was about 3.
It doesn't show.
Fair enough. I mean, Ryan, you've been Jazzer for 24 years, which is incredible. And
It is, yeah.
And you yourself are a huge fan of the Archers. What does it mean being such a long-standing, crucial member of the cast?
It's a dream come true. It really is. It's the best thing of all. Work-wise, nobody could ask for better. You know, when I was at Bristol training, doing my acting training, they said, you know, what do you want to do with your acting? What would you be your ambition? And they asked, and people were saying things like, oh, I'd like to do the RSC, I'd like to play Hamlet, or blah, blah, blah. And I just said, well, I can just get, 5 or 6 episodes of The Archers under my belt. I'll consider myself fulfilled. It has to be, and it happened. It actually happened. It's amazing. But yeah, it's the best thing of all. It's apart from my family and my people, you know, it's something that I'm doing, you know. Something to do and something to do it for is the key to life, isn't it? To make you. And if you can be happy in both of those, then life is amazing.
Yes. Well, you've certainly had 4 or 5 episodes, Ryan, to say the least.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're a keen listener to this podcast, of which we're delighted to know that. But most of the Archers cast who we've interviewed before have all remarked on how it is a relief not to have to learn the lines, but to read them instead. Now, as a blind actor, how do you read the lines? Are you provided with a version of the script in Braille?
Well, no, I get the emails. I get emails, and my computer can speak, so I use computer speech to learn them. I've also got a little gadget as well that I can carry around with me. So the email gets sent in. I read the whole episode just to get the shape of it. Then I take out the scenes that I'm not in and put them on a separate document, which is obviously password protected, and copy them onto this little gadget as well, so I can walk around the house or go for a walk with the dog and just go over the lines wherever I am. And I do a lot of it at night because it's lovely and quiet at night.
Right.
But I learn it from speech, and the nice thing about computer speech is you can't copy it. You can't sort of make it sound like anything. You know, there's no let up on it. You've got to make it your own, and that's the good thing about having computer speech. But it's a bit tricky, and most of the work I do is done probably before I get to studio. You know, learning it and working out how I should say it. But the nice thing about it is I've got a little bit of an advantage over the others because I know the scene back to front, and I hold it in my memory. And they can also they can take lines in and put lines out or whatever, and cut lines or whatever, and it's fine because I know it back to front.
Mm-hmm. So actually, you're the one actor in the cast who've actually learnt their lines.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, I find myself, it's bizarre, when I'm recording, I find myself doing sort of hand gestures for certain things. You know, if I've got to pick something up, I'm picking up the noise, and I do the picking up noise, and I do the hand gesture to go with it because I don't need to hold a script.
Yes. But Ryan, then how do you cope when because we've heard that they sometimes make changes literally just as you're going to record or when you've been doing read-throughs to cut the time or increase it. How do you just cope with all of that?
Memory, mostly. Your memory has to be well trained. And I mean, the nice thing about it is I can be anything on radio, you know. The fact that, you know, I was the first, when I first came into it, I stole cars, you know, for Joyride. I was the world's first ever blind car thief. I thought that was great. But you can be anything you want, you know, it's because of radio. But you cope because it's a joy to cope. It's a pleasure to do, and the people around you are marvelous as well. You know, the actors around you, they're really forbearing and patient. I mean, sometimes with the best will in the world, you go in, you've learned the lines, you know everything, and then your brain knows what it's got to say, but it just won't come out of your mouth. It just happens to everybody, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And because it's radio, that makes it easier. But the people around me are marvelous. I mean, we're all like family, you know. And when you see, sometimes you don't see each other for months on end, even years on end, occasionally. And you just go in and it's, oh, hello. It's like you seen them yesterday, most of them.
Yeah,
and it's great. It's the people that make, you know, it's marvelous.
Yeah. Yes, every member of the cast we've had on has made exactly the same point, Ryan, actually, yes. It's one big family. Now, you've mentioned it just now, being selected to join the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. I believe in 1997 you became the first totally blind student to gain a place. Were you ever taught by Sunny Ormond, who plays Lillian, of course, because she teaches there and she taught Madeline Leslie, who plays Chelsea?
After my time, that was. The funny thing is, Sunny came in just before I did, into the Archers. But no, she was there because Sue Wilson as well, who Sunny's partner. She auditioned me at Bristol. But no, I wasn't taught by Sunny. I met her in the Archers when I first was at Pebble Mill in 2000, and yeah, it was. I was never taught by her, but yeah, the thing is, you are taught by people when you're there, and by the actors. You learn things all the time from them, and they learn from you certain things. The people at Carol Boyd, who when I first met her, I was a bit starstruck because I'm a big audiobook buff. I do audiobooks. I live and breathe them. Radio plays, audiobooks, and obviously the Archers. But it's something. It's a hobby of mine. So my job is my hobby too. But when I first met Carol Boyd, I didn't know what to say. I was a bit that stupid, idiot grin, couldn't. But just like me or you or any, she's just an ordinary person. She's lovely, but I was a bit like starstruck when I first met her. But other than that, it was funny because when I went in to do it, and the month before I was due to do my first episode, they invited me in just to see what went on and took me into the studio and stuff. This was all at Pebble Mill, as I've said, and people were coming up to me. Ali was coming up to me, and I think Paddy came up, and different people, and they were saying, "Yes, I'm Ali, and yes, we're going Elizabeth, Jill." I told them all who they played. George Barford. I was just like, yeah, okay, it was, and they were all like, "Oh, you listen then?" And yes, and I could tell that just by their ordinary voices that who they played, and I was meeting all these people I'm going to be working with. This is amazing.
Oh, yes. Wonderful. I mean, you mentioned about being starstruck. It does seem to me that a lot of women in Ambridge and surrounding areas have been starstruck by Jazzer's milk round shenanigans.
Yeah, he's a bit of a boy, isn't he?
How many women did he serenade on that milk round?
I don't know. Oh, God, there was loads of. And he didn't just stick to the milk round, did he? He was he was a bit of a boy. What can I say? I mean, that's the only. I mean, I'm a lot like Jazzer in lots of ways, but I am not like that. I never had confidence of that kind whatsoever. My wife sorted me out. She married me. There was no messing about. She sorted me out. But no, I don't have that sort of confidence at all. But yeah, it's been fun to play. And I think he'd be responsible for quite a lot of the light relief in the Archers, and I don't mind that. I like that, because I like to make people laugh, even in my own life. If I can, I've been thinking a lot lately about because of different things that have happened to me. But if I can go out of this life and people will say to me, "Oh, you made me smile, they made me laugh," then I've lived a fruitful life, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you certainly achieved that.
Your wife, Ryan, sounds a bit like Tracy.
No.
No, but I mean, she took the initiative. She took the initiative. Is what I'm saying.
Yes. Well,
Careful, Quentin.
Got away with that.
I don't know if you have.
Yeah, she took the initiative. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was we were together at school, Sonia and I, and I split up with her when I left school. You know, I didn't want to sort of run the risk of cheating on her or anything like that. There was none of that sort of thing. And then 4 or 5 years later, a friend of mine said, well, when I see her at college, and I thought, which college would they go to from my old boarding school? I better phone that college. So I sort of started the ball rolling, but then she just grabbed it with both hands, you know, after that.
Yeah. Just picking up from your previous point and Philippa's previous point about your milk round and so forth. I mean, Jazzer has been a part, as we've already established, of Ambridge for 24 years now, starting off as the resident petty criminal. Now he's rather lovable, as you said, provides a lot of comic relief. But do you miss those car-stealing, ketamine-fueled days, Ryan?
Yes and no. I've got them there. They're down as memories, so that's okay. You know. And some of the lines, I can still remember some of them. But I mean, it's funny, the silly things that stick in your head, you know, like when Ed said something like, when he took ketamine, Ed said, what have you taken? He went, K, very special K. You know, it was that sort of the voice and stuff I had to, and I've got those memories, you know. But the stupidest lines, the lines that stay in my head that for years and years are the ones that are hardest to learn. You know, like the ones when he did a spoof Rabbi Buttons on Linda's New Year's Eve party, I think it was. I remember those. I can say those now, and yet I was trying to learn them that hard at the time. I was saying them in my sleep, quite literally. You know, it was bizarre. My Clutie's spanner has nae thrapple. Who'd a wished he'd no fray. There's a wee Enrique Nifo Hurty said, what's that numpty over there? And why that stayed in my head after all these years, I don't know, but they do.
So you're talking in your sleep, Archer's script lines.
Oh, sometimes I have done, yeah. It's a good job it's only Sonia. She doesn't. The bizarre thing is nobody in my family, not one person, listens to the Archers. I'm the only one.
Oh.
Not one. I had a headline a couple of years ago. Ambridge Rumpus, his wife prefers Emmerdale or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't care about that. It's not a problem for me. But yeah, they don't listen. So I don't have anybody to talk to about it, which is why I like the podcasts. You know, there's a few I listen to, and that is why, because you know, I'm with like-minded people. I'm hearing like-minded people talking. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think the Archers is real for a second.
It is. What?
No, calm down. But when I'm doing it, it is because it has to be. When I'm actually doing the script, because you've got to get into the character. But when I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, and I swear at it and stuff like that. Well, or whatever.
Yeah.
While I'm listening to it, as soon as it's done, it's done. You know, it's finished.
Can we talk about some of Jazz's bosses? Because he's worked for Tom. I mean, my goodness, that was a time. He's worked for Mike, Adam, and now Neil. Who do you think was his most favourite and least favourite boss?
I think he liked Neil as a man, but now Neil and him are sort of on an equal footing because you know they're sharing the same family, you know. But I think he had a love-hate relationship with Tom. I think he liked Tom, but he just liked to hate him as well. He liked to dislike him intensely, you know. Because Tom was closer to him in age, you know. Every one of Tom's letters was named by Jazzer Tom Archer. You know? But you know, I think that I think he did, and he said it, and I think it was one of the. I remember it particularly because it was what I call COVID time when we were doing remote recordings, and but yeah, so I think Tom would be the one that he probably had most in common with, even though Tom was privileged. I think they were closest in age, and I think that helped a lot.
And there were the funny scenes fairly recently, when Hannah was trying to show Jazzer how to use an Excel spreadsheet and all different sort of things.
Yeah.
Jazzer was slightly frustrated, understandably.
Yeah, just a touch. He was like a big kid, wasn't he? That was really hard. I mean, the thing that sticks out most in my head about that is the script, because of the amount of stage directions. It was so hard to learn.
Oh, yes.
The first, the part where he actually does almost destroy the computer, and it was okay. It was fun to listen to. I enjoyed the end result, but it was very, very difficult to do.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, like I said, and I love working with Helen. It's funny because we worked together. I think it was 2009, and then she came back into it, and she left then to be a student, the character Hannah, and then she came back into it several years later, something like 2018 or something like that. And it was lovely to see her again, And the nice thing about that is I'd seen her 10 years before, and she was on her own, blah blah blah. And then when I seen her again, like 8 or 9 years later, she was married with a kid, and it was that's what I'm talking about. It's lovely.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Hannah. I just like her direct approach, and
absolutely.
I hope we hear more from her. I mean, I love her when she just sorts out George. She's magnificent with George.
Yes,
she's fantastic. You mentioned that you think Jazzer ultimately did like Tom. You pushed back against Adam. I don't blame you at all. But when Jazzer bonds, I mean, he really bonds, doesn't he? I mean, we've talked about Jim, Alistair, Tracy, Chelsea, Brad, and Neil. If Jazzer's your mate, he really is your mate, isn't he?
Yeah, Jazzer stays your mate, doesn't he? Through thick and thin. But also, I think the opposite applies as well. If you let Jazzer down, if you're disloyal, you never forget it. And Jazzer is it's a bit crazy, but the Archers isn't real. And I've said this already, but Jazzer is a little bit real for me because I've been playing him for years. And sometimes it's hard to, especially when you've got intense stuff. Like the historic abuse I did a few years ago, the historic abuse storyline I was involved with, rather.
Yeah.
I was learning that, and it was very intense stuff. And John had clearly not been through it and all that. But I could be having a conversation with somebody, and then I would be thinking, like, swearing in my head, like, imagine doing that, John. And then think, God, get a grip. This isn't real. Get a grip. But I had to sort of pull myself out of it because it was intensive. It was because you've got to think, how would you feel if somebody did that to your uncle, your dad, your pal that is old? It was really intense stuff, and I couldn't sort of get away from it. But that's one of the very few times when I've been able to when I've been really sort of pulled into it.
Sure. I mean, that's been a lovely, highly unexpected plot development, isn't it? Your love, really, definitely your close friendship with the prof, Jim Lloyd. How much of a joy has that been to form that friendship within the Archers, and of course with Alistair as well?
Well, it's been lovely to do. The storyline's been great, but the people as well. The people that I've got to work with. John is something special. He's a lovely guy to work with, and he made that. For example, he made that storyline come alive. I remember doing that. Where he confesses that what Harold Jason did to him. And I remember being in the read-through, and there wasn't a dry eye in the place. He was sort of telling, and we were just a read-through, and everybody in there, the director included, were all in tears.
Yeah.
When he finished, and he had the power to carry that. And I think a lot of fans, I don't know for sure, but I think a lot of fans felt like that when they listened to the episode go out.
Yeah, it's very, very strong. He's very strong. He's such a good actor, John Rowe. He's a fabulous actor, isn't he, John Rowe? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, he is. But I total admiration for him, in that situation, and in many, many others. But also lots of laughs, we laugh a lot when we're doing it, and sometimes that shows, sometimes it doesn't. But when we did the blind date thing with Martin, Christmas before last, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Helen and Brian had a great laugh, and John as well, who plays Martin. we had a great laugh doing it, and somebody said as well, somebody that listened to it said you could really hear that you guys get on and that those scenes.
Yeah.
Ryan, because you're such a fan of the Archers, I'm interested if you react to certain things like we do when you're listening and perhaps you haven't seen the script involved. Sometimes we hear something on the Archers and we go into overdrive about whether it's a clue or a red herring for something coming up, and we might overanalyze it. Do you get into that as well when you're listening?
Sometimes, but not as much as you guys do, because I mostly know roughly what's coming.
Yeah.
Unless I've got a good 3 or 4 months off. So I don't sort of tend to think of it right. And this is why I don't sort of email. I do sometimes, but I email about other things. I email about indirect artist stuff. But I tend to email about points of interest when I'm emailing podcasts rather than actual storylines about the artist, just in case I let anything slip. Because it's a shame when you know what's coming. Don't get me wrong, I still listen to it and I still love it, but it detracts from it very slightly the actual the enjoyment of the show when you know what's happening. It's much better not to know. And that's the one. I don't like having time off for lots of good reasons, but the one nice thing about that is you don't know what's coming. But yeah, I don't tend to do it as much because obviously I know what's happening. Not all the time. I don't know every detail because I only get the scripts that I'm in. But I can surmise most things just from those scripts, even if it's just one.
Yeah. We've talked about the character development of Jazzer from petty thief to husband now and stepfather and great friend. Were you surprised, as I was, at how moralistic, really, Jazzer was when Alistair opened up to him in the pub about his designs and desire for Denise? He really wasn't. He said he should not do this, which, in a way, jarred with early Jazzer, really, and his milk round.
I think Jazzer had. I know what you're saying, because when I first read the script, I went, "What? But then I thought, there are motivations for it. So because Jazzer, people very often forget what they were like, don't they? People. I've never have done that, but he would have done. He clearly would have done. He was a rat, wasn't he? But yeah, I think he's just, now I'm happy. I've got all these morals, and they pretend to themselves that that it wasn't like that. And I know lots of people that do that. Lots of real people that that they kid themselves that they weren't like that when they were young or whatever. I've never have done that. You would have done, of course you would have. But I think that's what Jazzer's done. To be honest, I think I'm all married now. I'm all happy, and this is why I can say to Alistair, because I'm happy. But he didn't even think, well, what was I like? But then he sort of, Jim very gently prodded him in that direction. Look, what were you like when you first moved in with me?
Sure.
In a very subtle way. And
Yes.
I think Jazzer needed that, to be honest. Because I was amazed when I read it.
Quite, as you're probably aware, quite a few listeners push back from this rather lovable, caring, sharing new Jazzer because they say, come on, don't forget what he used to be like.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I know people that used to, the general people that are like Jazzer to start with and have changed because people can, and I think that comes with experience. I also think people make mistakes. Some people make mistakes and never learn from them. I think Jazzer's learned from his mistakes to a certain extent, but I don't know why he thinks he's so perfect as to sort of his love life now because he's married. He just thinks he's a perfect paragon. What's that all about? But, it's some people do. Some people. I mean, it's bizarre. Some of the things I've heard people say. Not about Jazzer, just in life. People. I mean, I don't know. Just to give you an example, I was walking along with my guide dog a long, long time ago now. I'm sure this guy has got a few brain since. Anyway, I stopped him. I stopped this man and I said, "Look, can you tell me where the bus stop is?" And he looked at me and he said this. He said, "What, can't your dog read a bus stop sign, mate?" I was like, what?
What?
I mean, that guy must have changed. He must have, either that or he's died. You know,
yeah.
people do change; they have to. And I think Jazzer has changed for the better over the years, and it took a long time.
Yeah.
But given his start in life, I mean, there's a lot about his start that I have to remember about that. His brother is no use. Stuart. He started trouble in an empty house, Stuart, I think. His mum was quite weak. She was sort of abused by his dad, mentally mostly. In Scotland, that was when Jazzer was a kid. And I think if you heard the way Jazzer spoke to Alice a few years ago, I would never leave my daughter in that situation, I think his dad was a chronic alcoholic, and I'm reading between the lines here, but he used to come and catch money off Jazzer in the school playground. And give your dinner money, Jackie, and all that. I remember lines like that. And so, I think Jazzer has sort of seen all that growing up and said, I want better than that for me. And I think that's that's the motivation behind his changing. And I've seen that before in a few people.
Oh. And also Tracy, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's just my watch alarm going off for the Archers.
All right.
It's fine.
Perfect, yeah. We should all listen along.
Because we are recording this at 7 and we're missing the Archers.
Shame
Ryan.
on us. Shame on us, yes.
But I was going to say, a lot of it's down to Tracy, isn't it? Shaping and changing Jazzer. I mean, in Tracy, he's certainly met his match, hasn't he?
Yeah, but the funny thing, the ironic thing is, he did a dating one. Do you remember that? A dating episode with Roy Tucker. Roy was doing a spreadsheet on what he wanted his
Yes.
to like. Jazzer did the whole dating thing with him, and he bought a stolen firework off Molly Button just after November the 5th and set it off in Roy's garden. Anyway, there's a scene there where Roy's looking at his app, his dating app, and Jazzer says, Tracy Horrobin, anyone? Jazzer's like, what? She's on, you don't want to date her. In that, those 3 words, and yet he ends up married to her.
Yeah.
That's the irony of that. Yeah. And the nice thing, Tracy gave him confidence. There was a lovely thing where they first started going out properly, and he said, I could do this, I can't do this interview for the Pigs, I can't do this job. And Tracy said, yes, you can. And she made him believe in himself through a long-winded way. But it worked. And yes, I think Tracy's given him bags and bags of confidence in himself.
Another alliance that Jazzer has had, one that slightly unnerved me, I have to be honest, is with his spider. Are you a fan of spiders, right?
Webster, yeah.
Are spiders your thing or not?
I mean, let's face it, they're not much good to a blind person, are they? I mean, how would you catch the thing? You wouldn't work. But yeah, we have lots of animals. Well, we did have, but mostly were animals that could be dealt with by a blind person. So we had at one time 6 guinea pigs. We've only got 1 of those now. 3 dogs, 2 cats, and 1 very large leopard tortoise. And it was we used to sign our cards from Ryan Sonia in the zoo, and yes, spider, no, I don't see the point. I don't see the point in keeping something like that as a pet, because why would you? I mean, it's probably nice to go and look at them in a zoo or something.
But absolutely.
It's just I think all that stuff is, even snakes are the same thing. They're faster than us. Especially people keep poisonous snakes, even like mildly. American causes. Why would you keep that sort of thing in a tank in your house? It's just bizarre. I mean, I'm not frightened of them or anything. I just think it's a weird thing to do.
Well, Ryan, before we come on to the questions from Facebook, I've got the question that I like to ask everyone, and it is very crucial. You've listened to our podcast, so you know food is important, particularly biscuits. So, Ryan, what is Jazzer's favourite biscuit? What is his biscuit of choice?
It would be a Scottish biscuit, so it would be wouldn't be shortbread. No, it would be something like a caramel wafer, like a chocolate biscuit.
Yes,
or a caramel log, the coconut one. something like that, something very rich and very bad for you.
That sounds very, very nice as well. Brilliant. Yes, so Ryan, we've got the questions now from Facebook. And Quentin, I think you got the first one.
Got the first one from Derek, Ryan, and he wants to know, what's the best thing you like the most about your character, if anything?
Oh, Jazzer, it's hard to say because there's such a lot I like about Jazzer. His confidence with women, or his previous confidence with women. I definitely, and I don't know if I like it, but I definitely envy him that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, the next question is from Dawn, who says, over the years, you've had some really interesting storylines, but is there a storyline that was given to another character that you would have liked to have been given to you?
Oh. No, there isn't. I mean, I think all the characters, they do that really well, and I think the characters fit the storylines really well. So both as an actor in the Archers and a listener, I can honestly say no. I've never felt like that about any kind of storyline. I mean, before he got married and before he sort of got with Tracy, I was saying for years, God's sake, give him a proper girlfriend, But
we all were saying that.
Yeah, and lots of people were saying. I mean, I met my old drama tutor, and she listens as well, and she said, "When are you going to get a girlfriend? For goodness sake, Well, I don't know. I'm at the mercy of the scriptwriters. But no, I can't honestly say when I've actually wanted someone else's storyline at all, because they do fit that really well. They do a good job.
Yeah.
On the whole.
Yeah. Okay, we've got one from Pam now, Ryan, and she asks, "Do you really like the bagpipes? And if you do, why?"
They have their place. They have their place at funerals and things like that. Don't get me wrong. But no, on the whole, I think it sounds like a cat's being swung around by the tail. So no, the answer. I would say that they do have their place in solemn occasions. Tattoos and funerals and weddings as well. People want that sort of thing. But nah, not really. Not a big fan of them.
Well, a piper led the troops onto the beaches of Normandy, didn't he? So
I also like the history of them.
Yeah.
I like hearing about the clans and things like that. And there's a lovely passage in Kidnapped where they talk about having a piping competition, and that was the first time I ever had. And I've read a little bit about it since, quite a bit about it, and I enjoyed reading about them and reading about how they played. I enjoyed seeing them and the experience of. But no, I wouldn't go out and buy CDs of the stuff. It's bizarre.
Okay.
Is there a pressure though on representing Scotland correctly in the Archers? Do you sometimes correct something in the script, or are they normally?
Quite often, yeah. We had a thing as doing some recordings, and it can't harm to tell you this. He had to talk about the word in the script was bairns, but Jazzer would say wains because it's a Glaswegian word. He wouldn't say bairn. That's more Edinburgh and very old-fashioned Edinburgh too. The older people, or Newcastle, Northumberland. They would say bairn as well. But in Glasgow, they say Wayne, W-E-A-N.
Thank you. Well, the next question is from Dorothy, who says, what do you do outside of the Archers?
Listen to the Archers. I like audiobooks. I like walking around. I like walking with the dog. I'm a fairly simple soul. I like good food. I'm not too snobbish. Sorry, that's fair to say. I like food. That's fair to say. I'm not really a drinker or anything. I don't really do any of that. I just enjoy life. I think that's what I do. I enjoy living. And I've got my family, of course. As I said earlier, something to do and someone to do it for. They're what keep me ticking.
Lovely.
Right, and talking about audiobooks, I was on holiday last week and I was listening to an audiobook and thought, I recognise that voice, and it was Joshua Riley who plays Paul Mack narrating the audiobook. So that was nice to hear him.
Well, I get that with Andrew Winkett as well.
Yes.
He's done lots of stuff, and of course Carol, who has done I don't know how many audiobooks she's done and narrated. But I can remember her when there was a company, I don't know if you're allowed to do this, but there was a company that made a series called Storyteller when I was growing up. and it was a tape, 40 or so minute tape with a magazine, and all the stories were in it. And I remember listening to her when I was about 5 or 6, doing story, and now, so of course, I'm working with her. And it's
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We've got one from Andy now, Ryan, and he says, as we all know, Ryan has a great singing voice and was accompanied by Mary Cutler on the piano a few years ago doing a Christmas song. Please, in the guise of Jazzer, can we perhaps get a medley together? Also, does Ryan sing professionally at all outside of the Archers?
I sing for fun. I don't sing professionally, mostly because I can't get the contacts really, and I don't play anything apart from accordion, which is very hard to sing with. If you want to record, and if you want to record live stuff, it's hard to. And I'm not a great player either, so I would need other people to do it with me. I'd need to sort of form a group, form a band, and in my situation, it's not easy to do, because I don't have the contacts down here, mostly.
Sure. But I mean, how often, because whenever you sing, it gets a huge response from the listeners, and indeed your fellow actors. I mean, I think Susie Riddell, when we interviewed her, mentioned your wonderful singing. How often do the script writers or the script editors come to you and say, Ryan, we'd like to work in a song into such and such an episode?
Well, they did it. That started off in, let me get this right now, 2010, with the talent contest. When he first did the Scottish number.
Yeah.
And I remember they actually consulted me as to what song they should sing, and while I didn't actually come up with the song. I came up with the band that originally did it, which was the Corries, and they were like, can you sing this? And so Julie Beckett at the time phoned me up and said, do you know the words to the song? I'd learned the song, and I actually sang it to her over the phone, full throated, no problem. Because and that was, she went, yes, you can do that one, that's fine. And so I was involved quite heavily in choosing the song, choosing the number. And yes, it's happened a few times. Mostly it's happened in the productions. So I've done it. I did the prior as well, the Prior and the Nun. That was it. That was hard because I had to do that so quickly, and I had to find the words myself, the pronunciations and things, and that was difficult. But yeah, I like singing, I enjoy it. But I do, I think I like to learn songs, and that's what I do when I'm not working, when I'm not learning lines. I learn silly songs, that stupid things, the old Scottish ones, or Scottish numbers like by Billy Connolly or Matt McGinn, and people like that. And I enjoy that. It's great. But I do it for fun.
Well, we'd love a Spotify album, so let us know if that ever happens. The next question is from Nikki, who says, if Jazzer and Tracy had a baby, what accent would he or she have?
Oh, it would be Ambridge, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
An Ambridge accent. I'd be more interested in what it would be called. What would he call it?
Yes.
Ooh, that'll be a battle.
Yeah.
Hopefully not Webster.
I don't know if it was a girl, Webster would work, but then I think Webster's the second name, isn't it? Apart from the spider.
Yes.
We've got another one now from Heather for you, Ryan. We sort of touched on this already. Does Ryan help any of the colloquial Scottish sayings that are often scripted for Jazzer? I totally love these, and they seem so authentic to the character and his Glaswegian hinterland.
Sometimes as well. I mean, I do. There was a time when people kept writing Ken for Jazzer instead of no. Do you ken that? Do you ken this? And I changed that to no, because again, that's outside of Glasgow, sort of, and Edinburgh. People don't say it inside, and that's. But they give me free rein to do that if I need to, because and sometimes they say Jazzer, Ryan, that's too Scottish. You need to slow that down. But Scottish people speak fast, don't they, a lot of the time? And they will quite often say to me, Ryan, you need to just not speak so fast. You need to Anglify that a little bit. And they don't say Anglify, but that's what they mean. And that's fine as well, because it's not for everyone. But they more or less give me free. We work together on it, and that's the truth of it, I think.
Sure.
You mentioned about the reference to Jazzer being Jack, and Catherine asks about this. She says, what age do you imagine Jazzer was when he started being called Jazzer rather than Jack? And do you imagine he'll still be called Jazzer in his 90s?
Oh yeah, he'll always be called Jazzer. And I think he started off when he was quite young, I would say. Certainly by the time he was about 8. Not everybody would. His mother would still. His mother saw him to call him Jack. Now she'll always call him Jack. But Stu, his brother, will call him Jazzer, and I think they'll have called him Jazzer from quite a young age. It was because Jazzer is a recognised form of Jack. It just is up there.
Okay, got one from Angie now. First of all, she says, I love Jazzer. There you go. And she says, can you please ask Ryan his opinion about pigs in real life? Does he eat bacon, pork, chops, Sunday roast pork, that sort of thing?
Bring it on. A lot. Love it all. Can't get enough of it. Pig, cow, chicken. Bring it. I love it. I don't really have any sort of. You're meant to have a social conscience about that sort of thing, but I just don't. They're there to be eaten. Lovely jubbly. Bring it on. No, I love the lot. I like food in general. Veggies too, apart from Brussels sprouts should be illegal. Other than that.
Oh, I love a Brussels sprout.
So Ryan, you are a comprehensive non-vegetarian, yeah?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, if I have a plate of grub, I've got to say I'm a bit disappointed if there's not even a little morsel of meat on the plate. I get.
Okay.
Great. Well, the next question is from Max, who says, do you think Jazzer considers himself Brad and Chelsea's stepfather? And if so, how do you think he's doing?
Oh, yeah, I think he definitely does. It came as a bit of a surprise to him, I've got to say. I think that, I'm responsible for these kids. And, well, I think that certainly Chelsea likes him a lot, given that he got rid of his spider because she said, you can't move in if you're going to have that spider with you. And it turned out that she didn't actually want him to get rid of the spider. She just didn't want Tracy to get with somebody else and then for that person to move on again, So I think he's doing quite well because Chelsea, and Brad's okay with him as well. He's helped Brad out a few times. So I'd say yes, for someone who's got no experience of kids, he's doing really well.
I agree. Because I think he handles them very well because he's not overbearing. He lets Tracy be the primary parent, but he's there, isn't he, in a supporting role, another ear for them somebody else to listen to them. I like the way he handles them. It's just slightly arm's length, but also very loving of them as well.
Well, they've not had anybody like that, have they?
No.
Des was no use,
Gosh,
Den, sorry, Den, that's it. Den was no use. But, so that's the first real long-term dad figure they've had, father figure they've had.
Well, I think he's doing it very well. Okay, finally, this one comes from Phil, and again, we've sort of spoken about this already, but he wants to know, how does it feel to be probably the only cast member who actually learns the lines and doesn't record from a script?
It's great. It's the best feeling in the world. When you've finished it, and, even if you've got just one episode, you come out of there feeling like a king, And just for a bit, it's adrenaline, I think. It's that, but it's marvellous. It's because you've achieved something that a lot of people are going to hear,
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, most of the lines, as I said, apart from those weird lines that stay in your head, like the Rabbie Burns thing, most of the lines go by the time I'm on the train. They're gone. But the odd one stays in, and I can usually, if somebody asks me a question that refers to those lines, I can bring a lot of them back. I can bring a lot, and I've been tested as well. Wherein I had to do, but before, what was his name? Reese, who plays Toby. We had another one who auditioned, and I did one episode with him, and the guy who plays Rex, Nick. And I had to come back in and do it again because this guy decided he didn't want to do it. So I had to come back, and the lines came back, and they'd gone, But they came back in about, I did honestly 12 minutes, and they were back. They were there.
Wow.
And which was bizarre. I didn't know that I could do that quickly as well. So I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to do this really quickly. But it turned out that it was easy. It's
Wow.
bizarre.
Wow.
Wonderful. Well, we come to the final little bit of this episode, Ryan, which is a question from the cast member we last interviewed. Is that your wonderful? They have to be included on this. Yes, absolutely.
You've got Sonia frantically going, shut up.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, sorry. So the last cast member we interviewed was Charlotte, as you know, who plays Susan. And so we've got a question for Jazzer from Susan, and we've got a question for Ryan from Charlotte, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does indeed.
Thank you. So the question for Jazzer from Susan is, what do Scotsmen really wear under their kilts?
Well, that's to remain a mystery. Although we'll tell you a story about that. When I was first, I was doing a show at school, and this is what first sort of got me talking to Sonia, and she went, "Do you wear anything under that kilt? Do you want me to show you?" That's not a track. But she's the only person that's ever going to find out what a bloke wears under his kilt. I wear under my bloody kilt anyway.
So Susan will not have the answer to that question. Great. And then the question for you, Ryan, from Charlotte was, if you weren't an actor, would you be a singer?
I'd be some sort of performer. I would do something that puts me out there and lets me show off a bit. You know, because I do like to sort of have myself. I enjoy. There's no doubt about it. I enjoy being out there and doing what I do. I love it. It's the best thing in the world, like I said. So yes, I would definitely be some kind of performer. Probably a singer, because that's what I can do. Okay, I'm quite good at that.
Well, Ryan, you love being in the Archers, and we love the Archers, and we've loved talking to you and hearing more about you and about Jazzer. It really has been a privilege. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.